Yay, we made it. It took about 9 times to get the intro right. But
Yep.
folks, today's show is brought to you by Cloudberry Lab, providers of cloud-based backup and file management services. Go check them out. There'll be a link. You can just click it on the front page or on the podcast page. But Paul, you feeling better, buddy?
Compared to yesterday, I feel like $1,000,000 today.
You would.
In real terms, it's closer to $100. But yeah, I mean, yesterday, well, I don't know, between, let's say, 2 p.m. on New Year's Day and 9 a.m. on yesterday, I was asleep and or barfing. And then I got up for a few hours. I managed to actually write one article yesterday, which was kind of impressive. It probably was terrible. But then I ate lunch and I slept all afternoon. So, yeah, I guess I needed to get that out of my system. The barfing, that is, not the sleeping.
Well, good.
But,
good.
I understand your daughter was also sick in the same way.
She was also calling dinosaurs as well. Actually, it was a pretty big mile marker in our household. I think this is the first time my daughter's puked, and it's not gotten on me. So that was a solid benefit. But,
I also managed not to hit other people with my puke. So 2 for 2 or whatever.
Although I have a sneaking suspicion here in probably like the last 2 hours, I very well might be getting whatever she had. We'll see how this plays out. This is going to be.
I was, as always, it's such good timing when you go to CES, right? It's in the middle of the winter, and so there's a lot of sickness going around as it is. And so I should get over this completely by the time I get on a plane, and I'll probably get like Hep B on the plane, and then I'll be nice and sick the entire time I'm, in Vegas or whatever. So yeah, that'll be great.
We can only hope. Speaking of things that don't involve our gastrointestinal tract and esophagus and all that stuff, this was actually something announced late December. I kind of missed it, and then I went back and read about it, and Paul probably doesn't care, but I absolutely do.
No, I actually completely missed it. I may care.
Yeah. So Amazon released a software package called Amazon Linux 2, and as the name suggests, it's based on Linux. Here's kind of the interesting thing about it. So there was an Amazon Linux 1, which I found out, but it didn't really matter for anything. Amazon Linux 2 is going to be supported by Amazon for 5 years. It's an enterprise-ready Linux grade. Now, it can't run on the bare metal, but the idea here is that you can take this application and you can run it in a VM in your own data center. And this is the reason why this is such a big deal. If you haven't figured it out already, typically Amazon is only played in the cloud, and now they are starting that slow movement into moving into the hybrid IT, where they're actually going to have their own software running in a data center. Yes, it'll be in a VM. It's not native yet, but I think if this catches any sort of traction, that's the next logical step for Amazon.
All right. I mean, so legitimately, this is a big deal. It's not something I care about personally, but the big advantage that Microsoft has over Google and Amazon is this hybrid computing model, because they're bringing all these companies forward from on-prem to the cloud, and this is kind of the interim step or whatever, or for many will be the final step actually. But yeah, so this is Amazon trying to expand into that market. It's actually pretty smart.
Yeah, I mean it's probably not too expensive for them to do this either. I mean, the maintenance and security and all that stuff ongoing will, be a little bit in cost, but they've got AWS is massive, and I'm guaranteed there's a lot of AWS users who are kind of bridging that hybrid IT world in an awkward way. And this is them throwing them a bone and saying, hey, look, here, you can actually just now do test and dev on your local stuff, on your local metal. And then you can just port it right up into AWS and it'll work natively. And
So interesting. I plan to never write about this ever, but no, that's interesting.
It is. Also, things that were interesting. One of the things that I do is every time Microsoft says a deadline, I put it on my calendar. It's kind of, yeah.
You're a bitter man, Brad.
Yeah. I've been burned a few times. And so on January 1, I had a notification that says, hey, are the Echo and Cortana working together yet? Nope.
Yep.
Nope.
Well, there's been plenty of discussion about it, right? I'm sure
Hmm.
Microsoft and or Amazon has been discussing this endlessly since they made the announcement.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure they've had many,
Yeah.
many a meetings about this, and they are just working so diligently. So I
Sure.
emailed both companies here actually,
Hmm.
and Amazon and Microsoft both basically came back and said soon, and that's it. They wouldn't say anything else.
Right. Right.
we I don't know if this is going to be like a CES related announcement, but that seems odd considering both these companies can make their own press waves without CES. So I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, if this was really a big deal, you could make a really neat argument that what they should be doing is having a special event in Seattle that involved both companies.
Right.
But I suspect what's going to happen is that this will just be slipstreamed into both assistants quietly and some software update
Mhm.
over periods of time for each platform they support. And it's just not going to matter, at least not in the
Yeah.
short term. I think it's going to be awkward in the beginning too, right?
Oh yeah, because you have to say like both assistants' name. It's like yelling at two
Yeah.
kids to get them to come to
Yeah.
dinner.
Right. Like even within just the Google ecosystem, for example, like if I am standing in my kitchen and I want to play music out to somewhere else in the house because we have better speakers in the next room over or whatever, the thing you have to say is fairly complex, and it's actually fairly complex, especially if you don't want to use like the default music service. So, for example,
Hmm.
I have the default set to Chrome. I'm sorry, to Google Play Music. My wife uses Spotify, so she can stand in the kitchen and say, "Hey G, play, Christmas classics on the sunroom speakers using Spotify." I mean, it's quite a
Yeah.
construct.
Yep.
And I think that, Hey G, or I guess in this case, Hey Z or whatever, do something with Alexa is likewise going to be that convoluted.
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
that's how I understand
Yep.
it.
Yeah. What would be super helpful on quite literally all of these assistants is exactly what you just said. You should be able to define a phrase such as I don't have one at my house, like, "Hey Google, play
Yeah,
music in the kitchen," and then it should
sure.
memorize that phrase and then be able to almost like if you're familiar with if this then that, like you can construct it
Hmm.
on the back end what that actually means and simplify that entire process.
So you kind of can do that, by the way. The complexity to this is that in the example I used, it's my wife, right? So my wife, it recognizes her voice. So if she says something like "What's on my what's on my schedule, my calendar, whatever," it will give her
Mhm.
results. But if she says something about music, unless I'm misunderstanding this completely, it won't know that her default, like there's a default music player for the device, not for the person, on the device. So
Yeah.
when she asks for music, it should always go to Spotify, I think. But I've been up in the bathroom listening to Google Play Music, and she's done exactly what I said, but she left off the Spotify bit. And the thing I actually said to her, someone's already using Google Play Music, because I only have an individual account for Google Play Music, but the Spotify thing is a family account. So I guess I guess the trick right now is like, who are we going to, put out here, me or my wife? And the answer is my wife, because I'm the one who configures this. No, but it's, like she, well, I mean, but I shouldn't have to think about it. Like the system itself should be smart enough. It was like the thing I wrote around the Christmas week, like every digital assistant should have this ability to have its own name. Like I shouldn't have to
Mhm.
say Google's stupid keyword or key phrase. I should be able to invent my own. And then the thing you just suggested, actually, that's starting to occur. It's just not very sophisticated yet. Like you should be able to say something like that is it's a script basically. You're basically
Yep.
saying, "Hey G, good night" or something, and turn off these lights, do this, do this. It could be set the locks, put the shades down, whatever the stuff you may
Mhm.
have in your house. You're basically running a script, and that's happening. It's just not. It needs to be per 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 person when appropriate. You know.
Yep. Yep. It'll get there, but that
Yeah,
day is
I
just
think so.
not today. Microsoft could do all
Right.
this with Cortana and just beat everyone to the punch, but I'm not going to sit here and hold my breath that they're going to make that quantum leap in functionality.
I will remind you that we sat across from Ryan Gavin roughly 1 year ago this week, and we talked about the Cortana strategy. And
Hmm.
I mean, at the time, I think. Yeah, at the time, Google had already announced, I think, shipped the first version of Google Home. Amazon, of course,
Yeah,
has
it's right
had,
around then. Yep.
yeah, Amazon, of course, has had Echo devices for quite some time, and they expanded that last year. They expanded again this year. And then in the interim year, Samsung announced Bixby.
Hmm.
We have exactly one Cortana speaker, and then Apple announced but did not release the HomePod. So there really hasn't been a lot of movement this year in this market, except with the two companies that are dominating it.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Speaking of not dominating things, if you're looking to buy a Kinect adapter for your Xbox, I suspect you should do that very soon, because
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft is ending production of that. I didn't even know. I can't imagine these things are still just rolling off the assembly line like one after another. I suspect they ended production a while
Oh
ago, and
yeah,
now they're
yeah.
just
These have
like
been
getting rid of the
sitting.
molds.
No, you're right. And by the way, that explains the kind of faux outrage issue that we're seeing today. People are freaking out, like, how dare they do this and blah blah blah. You know, they probably haven't made one of these in a year and a half, and you still haven't bought them all up. So what's the problem? I mean,
Right.
I get the issue today is that if you do want one of them, you're gonna have to pay big bucks. And on that note, I have two of them. So let me know what your best offer is. Just kidding. But I I do actually have a few of these things. But I like Connect only because of the voice command thing.
Hmm.
Using it with an Xbox One S or X is convoluted because you need this. We're going to call it a dongle, but the word dongle doesn't explain the multi-headed hydra that this thing is. It's like the craziest collection of wires and stuff that has to be plugged into multiple places. Um, the Xbox One S did not ship with the proprietary Kinect port, which the original Xbox One did, and also the Xbox One X doesn't have it. So you need this kind of crazy set
Hmm.
of connectors to use the Kinect with the device. That might have been the hint that this was going away, frankly, right?
Yeah. Well, it should have been.
August 2016, right? About a year and a half ago, they shipped a console without the port. I mean, you don't have to be Nostradamus to see this one coming.
It'd be helpful if you were though, because then we could get a lot more scoops. But
True, true.
yep, yep, yep. It's kind of a slow day mostly because I think I'm going to go take some Tylenol cold and sinus and let my head escape
Yep.
into the clouds for a few minutes. You got anything else for today, Paul?
Nothing big. I mean, I've got another How I Write article coming up soon about tools.
Hmm.
I should have my Surface Book 2 review this week. I finally did the battery life test, which was semi-difficult because the battery life is really good. Um, and I interviewed Mike Nash, the guy from
Oh, nice.
HP, actually a couple of weeks ago. I meant to publish that over the holiday week, but then the holiday week happened and it was so fun doing nothing. I just didn't write it up. I'm going to try to get that done before we go to CES, which is when, like Monday or Tuesday? Monday? Which day do we
Yeah, it's
fly?
Monday. Are
Oh,
you
God.
shipping me that computer before Monday, Paul?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to try. So, the computer I'm using today, you weren't here when I
Hmm.
first signed in, is actually the new computer. So I've actually made the switch.
Oh, nice.
The
So
only
what are
thing
you
I
on
need
now?
to do, this is an HP Elite One all-in-one with a 27-inch screen.
Very nice.
Beautiful computer. It looks like a screen. Like the the base is so small, it just looks like it could be the base of a screen. Um, so all I need to do is wipe this thing out, find the box, and then I'm sure it's going to cost $200 to ship it or something because it weighs like 17 pounds. Actually, it probably weighs closer to 50 pounds. I don't know what it weighs, but it's
Oh,
a lot.
Jesus.
It's a big device. So yes, my plan is to ship it. Well, actually, maybe I should ask you about this. Given that you will be gone most of next week, it might make more sense to ship it when we know you're going to be around, right? Because your wife won't be home during the day. And this is the
Yeah,
type of
that's
thing, I don't know if they would just leave it on your front doorstep because it's humongous. Like the box will be probably 3 feet by, 3 feet and then a foot deep or whatever.
let me put it this way. If you are itching to
Mhm.
get that thing out of your house, my brother lives right quite literally seven
Oh, okay.
houses
I could
down.
do that.
I
Yep.
can
Just
well
send me
as
his
little
address.
do let me yeah, I was
Just
gonna
send
say
me his
let me
address,
make
and then
sure
yeah.
I gotta
I
make sure
can't.
he's gonna be
My
home.
goal is to ship it by the end of the week. I have to. ship some other stuff too. So I'm going to be going out anyway. So if I can, and I don't think I think I should be able to. It's pretty much good to go.
Yeah, no, I can. I'll double check to make sure that he's going to be home next week, and then
Hmm.
everybody listening in the podcast is very interested in this. I'm sure. Um,
Well,
just kind of realized this was still on the show.
yeah. Well, okay. So I'm shipping Brad the computer I was previously using, so that he has something good for video and whatever else, just for general bragging rights, because this thing is freaking incredible.
Yep.
Dual 1080 graphics, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you will enjoy it. I shared with you what was the Time Spy result, and it was basically,
Yeah.
I think it said infinity was the score. Something like
It said
that.
you can't afford this is actually what it said, I believe.
Yeah. It's a good computer.
Yeah. So that will be that'll be fun. Okay. So cool. I will get my brother's address and then we'll go from there. Actually,
Yeah,
he brings me over
I can
beer
do
a
it.
lot, so I'll tell him it's for him, but then take it back. No, just kidding. He's gonna show up and he's gonna be like,
I'll
"Oh,
throw him a
great!"
Kinect. He can have a Kinect for Xbox One as a special gift.
Throwing a box of crickets while you're at it. So, you got anything else for today, Paul?
No, I think that's everything.
Cool. All right, folks. Today's show was brought to you by Cloudberry Lab, cloud-based backup and file management services. As always, go check them out, and we'll catch you right back here tomorrow on First Ring Daily.